I got the Simplex and I got the Deus, and I've been having some problems with the ambient noise. My next door neighbor is always doing something in his backyard, drilling or hammering or doing something. I've got the state fair in the background right now. I live about a mile away from the state fair, and the state fair is going on right now. And I just had a neighbor over there, about 2 houses down, start up his race car, and he's trying to dial it in. Or here he goes again. It's not nearly as loud as it was before. He had it really mistimed before, but I'll try to do this video. Right. I make so many videos in my backyard here and out in the field, and I just have to delete them, right? Because just ambient noise or just stuff happens. Somebody calls me in the middle of a dig or whatnot, but I'm just going to continue with this video, and I'm going to show you how freaking good the Simplex is. I'll take this little bit of jewelry, and I'll take this roofing nail and just put it on the ground here. Simplex versus Deus, right? And put a nail right there, and that piece of jewelry right there, right? I'll show you how good the Simplex is, man. There's a reason why I have a lot of videos with the Simplex, because the Simplex is a top performer. One of the 3 easiest and best performing machines that I've ever used, right? Sure, it is a really noisy, like that. It is a really noisy machine, but it just seems to hit on stuff that other detectors will refuse to hit, no matter what settings you have. Like the Deus, man. I've tried to get the Deus to go deep, right, and shallow all at the same time, but it's just not possible because there's so many settings, right? And you can have your settings not quite right and not be able to hit on targets. But with the Simplex, it doesn't really matter what you do with the Simplex, man. It just hits stuff, right? It's noisy. It's a noisy machine. I understand that, right? But it just seems to hit on stuff, right? Park 1. That was Park 2. This Park 1. My iron is all the way down here, so I'll adjust my iron up here a little bit to 2. I'll take that little bit of jewelry out of there and show you what the iron sounds like, right? Right there. And sure, these were pretty much air tests, but I don't do these tests like air tests, like depth tests, right? I'm not gonna take my frickin' a coin and sweep it over the coil 10 inches out, and that's just, it's not real, right? The real thing that I want to show you guys is the performance of these machines in iron. Now I'm gonna mute it here for a second. And once you start hunting a place, right, and you find that hot spot of iron, you want to swing a lot slower, right? And by the time you get to the iron, you've hunted a lot of that field, right? The first thing I do is, when I get to a new site, I want to find where the iron's at, because that is where you find the goodies at. That's where you find the old relics. That's where you find the silver dimes. That's where you find the old jewelry. And once you hunt a park 20 times, right, you know where the iron's at. But you've hunted the park out a lot, so a lot of the surface stuff is going to be gone, right? Unless it's a park that's really has a lot of frequent users dropping rings and jewelry and coins and whatnot. But I always tend to just migrate towards the iron, right? I'm looking for a spot that has a lot of iron, because that spot's where guys skip up, right? And that's where you're going to find this stuff at. A lot of guys don't have the patience to hunt through the iron, sift through all that junk, right, and get the good stuff out. And that's where really the good stuff is at, is where the iron's at. It's hard to explain that to people who are first getting into this hobby. You know, sure, coins are fun. You know, smacking out a bunch of coins, you know, near the surface. But when it comes to hunting in the iron, it's tough, right? You dig up a lot of junk. But once you clear that junk out of the ground, those better quality targets will start popping out, right? The more you hunt that area and the more you clean that area out, you know, it's a process. Go back and go back and go back and just dig out the big iron, dig out the big junk, dig out the can slaw, dig out, you know, just the random mid-conductors. And eventually you'll start getting some better stuff out of that site. You know, I go to spots over and over and over and over again. Even if I don't find much, I'll still go back a few times, right? Because it may be better to conditions. I may have a different coil. I can put it in different frequencies. I might be on my A game a little bit better. You know, I'm going back to a site that I haven't gotten much from. But I can always tell. When I get to a site, I can always tell that if I'm going to come back soon or later, right? When you get to a site the first time, you want to dig out the evident targets, right? Get all the surface finds, you know, all the coins and whatnot. But then once you find that irony spot, you know, you're going to have to eventually come back to that spot, because you're going to have to start traveling further and further away from your home to go hunting. You know, Jim and I hunt all over the place, right? Sometimes we drive for a couple hours, you know, to go look for spots. You know, I do a lot of research on parks and schools and old home sites and whatnot. But when you start detecting more and more around your house, there's going to be fewer targets to hit on, right? Once you get a new detector, you know, you want to go over all the other spots that you've hunted before in the past, and yes, you will find different stuff, right? And on any given day, you know, the soil is different every single day. Sometimes every hour it changes. And I'm going to show you here how good the Simplex is. And the Simplex has outperformed all of my machines in a roundabout way. The Simplex has outperformed my machines, all my other machines, just at one setting, right? Just Park 2 or Park 1 or field mode, in general, right? It's the Deus will do a lot better in iron, because you can reject the iron a little bit more, not reject it, but tone down that iron by lifting your frequency up. The Simplex, you can't do that. But I'm going to show you here, the Simplex you can have at one setting, you know, just full gain in any mode that you want, and hit on those targets that are shallow and deep, all on those same settings, right? A lot of detectors aren't like that. You have to fiddle with the buttons, and you have to, you know, if you're going for gold, you drop your frequency, you raise your frequency, or if you're going for silver, you lower your frequency, or if you're in a lot of iron, you know, you can change coils and whatnot. But with this Simplex, with this SP28 coil, it just spanks my other detector's ass, especially in the test garden. The test garden is really where it performs well at. Once you get it out in the field, it's a lot different. You know, once you get it in iron or around a bunch of EMI, you know, it's gonna struggle. But I'll show you right here, it's gonna hit these three targets really good, and that Deus is gonna struggle on a couple of these targets, right? And this is just the simple Simplex, right? I'll show you. It's just super easy to use, man. That's why I love this machine, because it's just so easy to use, man. You don't have to push a bunch of buttons and crap, right? Just simple, just stock Park 1, right? Here's Park 2. You know, it's definitely a target. Definitely a target in there. All right. Park 2, and I'll go for this. I'm gonna mute it. It's a really noisy machine, right? It's a really noisy machine. But I want to be able to hit these all three of these targets as good as I can, get a clean tone on it without pushing any buttons. And the Simplex is the only machine that I've ever used that can do this right here. Same settings that I was hitting that iron right next to that jewelry, or hitting that jewelry right next to the iron. This is a nickel at 5 inches deep, right there on the tip of my coil, and there's a quarter at 6 inches deep, and there's a lot of iron around here, right? Nickel at 5 inches deep. It's been there for about a year. This quarter here has been here for about 8 months or so, maybe 9 months. And believe it or not, the Simplex is the only freaking machine that I have, and I have a lot of machines and a lot of coils, and I've run this test so many times, and the Simplex hits it every time, right? It just kicks this quarter's ass. All my other machines struggle big time. The Deus, the Equinox, the Amphibio, all my other whites machines, they struggle big time on this quarter. And I have some other coins over there. I'm probably not going to be able to get to it in this video. But you saw that, right? Now I'll put it in. Now I'll put it in Park 1 mode here, right? It's giving me high tones, right? 78, 90, 80 something, 70s, 30s, 20s. It's not a very good target, but it is hitting it, right? It's hitting it. And I can put my 11-inch Equinox coil on here, and it won't even touch that freaking quarter right there. Won't even touch it, right? Actually, if I do put the Equinox in 4 kilohertz, it'll hit that target. But all this other iron around here, it just gives me high tones. It pulses on all this iron, right? Now I'll come over the Deus here and just turn the Deus on. And I've spent so many hours in my test garden here, right? Testing all these coins and this jewelry and the iron, lots of different tests, and the Deus does very good in really thick iron, right? And I'll show you here. You know, I'll go to just Park or Deus Fast mode, stock Deus Fast, right? Really jumpy tones, right? This is 3-tone, right? Deus Fast is a 3-tone machine. It's going to give you multiple tones on that target. But I'll go to, sets me at 14 kilohertz preset in this for Deus Fast. So I'll go up to 54 kilohertz. It won't adjust anything. This is stock Deus Fast program, right? Hitting it really good, right? Now I'll come over this 5-inch deep nickel, right? Right? It goes away, right? Not gonna be able to do it. And this quarter, no. I can't pinpoint it, right? Not like the Simplex, right? And there's just a little bit of difference on performance on these, just a little bit. But a little bit is a lot, to tell you the truth. When you're out in the field and in the iron, this is a huge difference right here, right? Being able to pinpoint targets, right? Being able to hit on them, get a repeatable tone on it. Now I'll go to the stock hot program, which I use a lot. 14 kilohertz. I'm gonna get a lot of iron tones on here because full tones, you have full tones in the hot program, right? I'm only hitting it just a little teeny bit on the tip of the coil, only this way, right? I can't hit it that way. I can hit it a little bit that way, but I can raise my frequency here up here too. I'll go over to this 5-inch deep nickel right here. Here's that quarter right here, 14 kilohertz. Not hitting it. I can ground balance here a little bit too. I have the ground balance on here. I have really hot soil, so 84. It's coming out a little bit, but it's not hitting it like the Simplex does, man. The Simplex just slaughters my test garden, man. Just for some reason, the Simplex just can do it, you know. And I'll raise my frequency here to 54 kilohertz. All right, show you the difference. I lose a lot of depth. I lose a lot of depth on those larger coins, right? Those higher mid-conductive targets if I'm in higher frequencies. That was the nickel, the mid-conductive target there. It's doing fairly well at 54 kilohertz, but I lose a lot of depth if I'm trying to hit a larger coin here, right? At higher frequencies, right? And I'll go to deep program here, just for giggles, all right? It's gonna be really noisy. I'll take that jewelry out of there. See, it's getting falsing. I'm getting falsing on that target right there, on the iron, right? Now I'll come over to all this other iron here, right? Falsing, lots of falsing on the iron, right? It's hitting it really good. It's hitting that nickel really good. But I'm also falsing on all that iron in the soil there, right? I'm just getting all kinds of just jumpy, just chaotic tones, right? It is hitting that really good, but it also hits on this iron. It falses on this iron, and if I reject that, if I discriminate the iron out, it'll just discriminate that target down there also with it, right? I've done so much testing with the Deus, the Equinox, the Simplex, the Amphibio, all these new machines, and it just seems the Simplex just seems like the Simplex just spanks their ass, man, even out in the field, right? Maybe not in the iron or the high EMI spots, like I said, but the Simplex is freaking absolutely amazing. This new machine, the Lightning that's coming out, I think it's gonna have a lot going for it if we can get up in the higher frequencies, you know, up into the 60s or 70 kilohertz. I believe that it will really perform well if we can do some tone breaks or some tone management. If it's just not a 3 or 4, 5 tone machine, if we have full tones on the new Lightning, that would be amazing. Well, thank you for watching. Please subscribe.